In the mid-19th century, Edinburgh was a city of stone and secrets, a city of two distinct faces locked in a constant silent dialogue. By day, its grand new town avenues, models of Georgian reason and enlightenment, proclaimed a new age of prosperity. But as dusk fell, and the thick, ghostly sea fog, known as the Har, rolled in from the Firth of Forth, the ancient, labyrinthine closes and winds of the old town seemed to reclaim the city's soul. Here, tales from a deeper, harder past were etched into every soot-blackened stone. A biting wind from the North Sea would sweep through these narrow stone canyons, carrying the scent of coal smoke, damp earth, and the distant, lonely cry of gulls from the port of Leith. Gas lamps, new and miraculous, would sputter to life, their weak, flickering lights struggling against the oppressive dark, casting long, dancing shadows that could turn a familiar corner into a place of profound mystery. This was the world of John Gray. He had come to the city years before, a man fleeing the harsh uncertainties of a farmer's life in the Highlands, seeking the humble security of a steady wage. He found it in the solitary discipline of the Edinburgh police as a night watchman. His duty was to walk these lonely streets, his heavy boots echoing on the cobbles, a guardian of the city's slumber. He was a quiet man, his face a map of quiet resilience, his eyes holding the profound solitude of a life lived by the moon's clock. Yet he was never truly alone. A small, scruffy, whiskered shadow moved with him, a Skye Terrier named Bobby. Given to him as a pup to ward off the rats and the loneliness in equal measure, Bobby had grown into more than a pet. He was the silent keeper of his master's solitude, his steadfast companion in the long, dark, and often thankless hours. Their shared life was built on a foundation of simple, unspoken rituals that gave shape and meaning to the darkness. It began each evening in a small, damp room in a tenement near the Cowgate, where a modest peat fire was the only defense against the city's pervasive chill. As John prepared for his patrol, methodically polishing his boots to a dull shine, trimming the wick of his oil lamp, checking the heavy iron key to the city gates, Bobby would watch from his spot on the hearth, his head cocked, his intelligent eyes following every movement with an intensity that bordered on reverence. Their dinner was a shared affair. A piece of coarse bread and a slice of hard cheese for John, a small morsel saved for his friend, accepted not with the frantic begging of a common cur, but with a gentle dignity that spoke of their deep, mutual respect. Out on patrol, their partnership was a seamless practice dance. They had a route that took them from the high castle ramparts, down the spine of the Royal Mile, past the towering, dark edifice of St. Giles's Cathedral, through the bustling, chaotic grass market, and into the quieter, more respectable lanes of the new town. They had their routine stops, a moment of quiet conversation with Ewan, the young baker's apprentice, already at work in the pre-dawn hours, the warm, yeasty smell a welcome comfort in the cold. A shared nod with the tavern owner of the White Hart Inn, bolting his doors for the night, and on clear nights they would stand on Calton Hill, looking out over the sleeping city, a vast sea of darkness pricked by 1,000 tiny lights. And John would speak to Bobby in low tones, his voice a gentle murmur against the wind, sharing thoughts he would entrust to no other living soul. But an insidious shadow began to creep into their lives, a foe that no lock could bar nor lantern could reveal. It started as a mere tickle in John's throat, a nuisance he dismissed as the graveyard cough. But the tickle became a debt he couldn't repay, a persistent, racking cough that seized him with increasing violence. One night, while climbing the steep, winding curve of Victoria Street, a coughing fit so severe took hold that he stumbled, catching himself against the cold, damp stone of a bookshop's wall. He stayed there for a long moment, the world swimming before his eyes, his breath coming in ragged, shallow gasps. Bobby, frantic with worry, began to whine and lick his master's cold hand, refusing to move until John finally straightened up, his face pale and slick with sweat in the gaslight. A profound weariness began to settle deep into his bones, a leaden weight that turned his familiar route into a grueling pilgrimage. He began to see his own reflection in the dark glass of shop windows, the face of a stranger, gaunt and haunted. Bobby sensed it all. the little dog's behavior shifted. He would refuse his own portion of their meal if John seemed too weary to eat his. He pressed ever closer to John's legs as they walked, a constant worried presence, a living anchor in a world that was slowly slipping away. The inevitable day finally came. After a night of agonizing struggle, where every step was a fresh torment, John Gray completed his last patrol, his strength utterly spent. He collapsed into his chair by the cold hearth and did not rise again. A few days later, under a sky the color of lead, a sparse poor man's funeral procession made its slow way to the historic Greyfriars kirkyard. There was no grand carriage, only a simple cart and a handful of mourners. And weaving between them, frantic and lost, was Bobby. He did not understand the heavy, polished box that smelled so faintly, so terribly, of his master. He watched, shivering in the cold air, as they lowered the coffin into the dark, damp earth. The hollow, rhythmic thud of shovels turning soil was a sound of absolute finality, a sound that seemed to extinguish the very air. As the last of the mourners departed, their quiet words of sympathy fading into the misty air, a profound hush fell over the cemetery. The gravedigger tried to coax Bobby away. "Come on now, wee lad," he said softly. "He's gone. Time for you to go home." But Bobby would not move. The kirkyard keeper came later and tried more sternly, citing the rules against animals in the holy ground. But Bobby merely looked at him with those unblinking, devoted eyes and laid his head back down upon the cold soil. As the light failed completely, the great iron gates of Greyfriars kirkyard groaned shut, and the heavy lock fell into place with a definitive, echoing clunk. The footsteps of the keeper faded away, leaving only the sound of the wind in the bare trees. Bobby was alone, locked inside with his master. The first night of his long 14-year vigil had begun, a silent, unwavering testament to a love that even the grave could not conquer.